There comes a point when remembering hurts more than forgetting. When every song, every place, every little thing that reminds you of him feels like a weight pulling you backward. You tell yourself you've moved on, but deep down you still carry traces of him. The way he made you feel, the promises that never became real, the memories that keep replaying like a film you can't stop watching. But here's the truth. You'll never heal if you keep revisiting what broke you. Erase every memory like he never lived in you. Isn't about pretending he never existed. It's about freeing yourself from the grip of his ghost. It's about taking back the parts of you that got lost in loving someone who didn't know how to stay. Because healing isn't passive, it's a decision. It's choosing to stop feeding the past and start watering the present. You don't owe your pain loyalty. You don't have to hold on to what once made you happy if it now makes you hurt. Erasing him doesn't make you heartless, it makes you wise. It means you finally understand that no one deserves permanent space in your soul if they couldn't even earn consistency in your life. This is your moment to reclaim yourself, to rewrite your story without his shadow in it. To wake up one morning and realize that his name no longer stings, his memory no longer controls you, and his presence no longer defines your worth. Because the day you truly erase him, not from your mind, but from your emotional reality, is the day you become untouchable. Memories have a strange way of holding us captive. They come wrapped in nostalgia, dressed as comfort, yet they often keep us tied to a version of ourselves we've already outgrown. When you keep replaying the same moments, you're not honoring what was, you're reliving what hurt. You think you're remembering love, but in truth, you're keeping pain alive. Every time you revisit that conversation, that laugh, that night you thought meant forever, you stop your heart from moving forward. It's like reopening a healed wound just to check if it still hurts. And it does, because you haven't allowed it to close. What we don't realize is that memory isn't a place to live. It's just a place to visit. The problem begins when you start building your home there, decorating your present with the ghosts of your past. You start comparing every new person, every new experience, to what you once had, and in doing so, you keep yourself trapped in yesterday. That's the hidden cost of not letting go. You trade your peace for a false sense of familiarity. You cling to something that no longer exists while the beauty of what could be slowly fades away. You can't move on while holding onto the idea of what could have been. The mind loves to romanticize, to edit the story, to remember only the good parts. But love wasn't just the smiles and soft moments. It was also the disappointment, the unmet needs, the nights you cried in silence. When you remember honestly, without filters, you begin to see that you weren't losing something perfect. You were releasing something incomplete. The heart only heals when the truth replaces the fantasy. Sometimes we tell ourselves we're keeping the memories because they mean something, that they shaped us, that they remind us of who we were. But who you were back then isn't who you are now. The version of you that loved him was still learning, still believing, still hoping. You don't need to carry that version of yourself forever. You can honor her by letting her rest. Because the woman you're becoming doesn't need to hold on to proof that she once loved deeply. She's already living proof of that through her strength, her growth, and her ability to love herself better. Memories become dangerous when they stop serving as lessons and start becoming lifelines. You begin to depend on them for comfort, for validation, for connection to something that no longer exists. But the past can't give you what you need now. It can't love you back, it can't change, and it can't grow with you. The longer you stay there, the more you lose touch with the reality that your future deserves a chance. Letting go doesn't mean it never mattered. It means it no longer defines you. It means you're done letting the past dictate how much happiness you're allowed to feel. You can appreciate the memory without reliving it. You can be grateful for the lessons without reopening the pain. You can remember who you were and still choose to move on as someone wiser, freer, and stronger. So when the memories come, and they will, don't fight them, but don't feed them either. Let them pass like waves on the shore. Acknowledge them, breathe, and return to the present, because the present is where your healing lives. The past only survives when you give it attention, but healing begins the moment you decide not to look back. When you finally stop replaying what was, you make room for what's next, and that's when your life starts to feel like yours again. Detachment is one of the hardest lessons to learn, especially when your heart still beats for someone who's no longer there. But detachment isn't about becoming cold or heartless. It's about reclaiming your peace from the chaos that person left behind. It's realizing that love doesn't mean holding on when it hurts. It means having the courage to let go when it no longer serves your soul. Erasing someone isn't an act of cruelty. It's an act of emotional survival. It's the moment you stop letting them leave rent, free in your heart, and start breathing for yourself again. When you detach, you're not saying what you felt wasn't real. You're saying it's no longer worth sacrificing your sanity for. There's a difference between love and attachment. Love gives you space to grow. Attachment chains you to a story that's already over. Detachment means recognizing that some people are meant to be lessons, not lifetimes. It's saying, I learned what I needed to, and now I'm done carrying the weight. That's not bitterness, that's clarity. You stop needing closure, validation, or even an apology because you've accepted that peace doesn't come from them, it comes from you. When you start detaching, it will feel uncomfortable at first. Your mind will reach for them out of habit, checking their social media, replaying old messages, wondering if they think about you. That's not love, that's withdrawal. You've been addicted to their presence, their attention, their energy. And like any addiction, you have to detox. You have to sit with the silence, the emptiness, and the ache, and not run back just to fill it. Because that discomfort you feel, that's healing in progress. It's your heart learning to live without the noise. True detachment doesn't come from hate, it comes from indifference. Hate still ties you to them, it still gives them power. But when you reach the point where their name no longer stirs emotion, where their absence no longer feels like loss, that's freedom. That's when you've truly erased their hold on you. You stop reacting, stop checking, stop wondering. They stop being the main character in your thoughts, and you become the author of your own peace again. Detachment is an act of love for yourself. It's saying, I'm no longer willing to be broken for someone who couldn't see my worth. It's walking away not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself more. It's choosing your mental health over a connection that only drains you. It's deleting the number, unfollowing the profile, removing the reminders not out of spite, but because you deserve to live without emotional clutter. And the beauty of detachment is that it creates space for clarity, for calm, for rediscovering who you are outside of that relationship. You start to notice the quiet isn't loneliness, it's peace. You begin to realize you were never missing them. You were missing the version of yourself that felt alive before the pain. And when you reconnect with that version of you, the power shifts, the hold they had fades, and the balance is restored. One day you'll look back and see that detachment wasn't loss, it was liberation. You didn't erase them because they didn't matter, you erased them because you do. You chose peace over pain, growth over familiarity, self-worth over attachment, and that choice, that quiet reclaiming of your power, is how you finally close the door without needing to lock it. Because you're no longer afraid they'll return, you've simply outgrown the version of yourself that waited. Healing doesn't come from sitting in the ruins of what broke you. It comes from building something new in its place. You don't heal by remembering, you heal by replacing. The truth is, the mind can't simply delete memories. It needs new ones to take their place, Every time you revisit the past, you reinforce its power over you. But every time you fill your life with something new, something real, something that belongs to now, you weaken its hold. The goal isn't to forget who he was, it's to remember who you are without him. When a relationship ends, it creates a void. The daily routines, the inside jokes, the constant communication, all those little things that once filled your world suddenly disappear. And that emptiness can feel unbearable at first. But the worst mistake you can make is trying to fill that void with his memory. Because the more you cling to what was, the less room you leave for what could be. The healing begins the moment you choose to rebuild your life instead of reliving it. Start small, change your routine, go somewhere new. Do things that remind you of your own energy, not his. That's how you start replacing pain with presence. You might think the only way to heal is to get over him, but that mindset still revolves around him. The real shift happens when your focus moves from what you lost to what you're gaining. Healing is not about deleting the past, it's about outgrowing it. You begin to heal the moment you stop waking up thinking about what's gone and start looking forward to what's next. Because every new experience you allow yourself to have, every laugh, every adventure, every peaceful night of sleep starts to overwrite the emotional imprints he left behind. Sometimes people confuse healing with forgetting, but forgetting isn't healing, it's avoidance. Healing means you remember without hurting, you reflect without relapsing, and you can look back without wanting to go back. That takes time, but time alone isn't enough. You have to fill that time intentionally. Replace the old habits, the endless checking, the reminiscing, the comparing with new rituals that serve your growth. Journal your thoughts instead of sending that text. Go for a walk when you feel the urge to check his social media. Pour love into your goals instead of into the what-ifs. That's how you begin to take your power back. Healing by replacing doesn't mean pretending the past didn't matter. It means recognizing that it doesn't have to define your future. Every new chapter you write weakens the influence of the last one. You'll notice that over time, the details start to fade. The sound of his voice, the specifics of those moments, the sting of what happened, they all begin to blur. Because your mind is too busy living something better. That's the natural process of erasure, not forced, not angry, just quiet evolution. The most powerful kind of healing happens when you start choosing experiences that align with your peace instead of your pain. You realize that your worth isn't tied to who stayed or who left, but to how you rise. You start feeling excitement again, not for him, but for yourself. You start seeing beauty in small moments and freedom in your solitude. That's when you know the healing has truly begun. One day, without even realizing it, you'll catch yourself laughing freely again. You'll hear a song that once hurt and feel nothing. You'll pass by a familiar place and keep walking, and in that moment, you'll understand that you didn't just erase a memory, you rewrote your story. You built something so fulfilling, so real, that the past simply stopped mattering. That's not forgetting him, that's remembering you. Sometimes the hardest part of letting go isn't missing the person, it's missing the connection. You start to realize you're not holding onto him. You're holding onto the idea of what you thought he was. You replay the moments when he seemed gentle, attentive, loving, but those memories are often illusions, fragments of a version of him that never truly existed. What hurts the most isn't losing the man you had, it's losing the man you hoped he would become. But when you keep clinging to those ghosts, you keep yourself trapped in a story that's long over. You can't move forward when your heart is still haunted. Every memory, every reminder, every time you let your mind wander back to what once was, you're summoning the ghost of something that no longer belongs to you. And the truth is, he's not coming back, not the way you remember him. The person who promised you forever, who said he cared, who made you believe in love, That version faded the moment he stopped showing up. Holding onto him now is like holding smoke in your hands. It gives the illusion of substance, but it's gone the moment you try to grasp it. There's a reason you feel drained when you think about him. Ghosts don't bring peace. They drain your energy, your joy, your confidence. The more you feed them, the more alive they seem. You might find yourself checking his profile, rereading old texts, holding on to his things, not because they bring you happiness, but because they make the pain familiar. But familiar isn't the same as safe. Sometimes the heart mistakes familiarity for comfort, even when it's slowly breaking. That's why letting go feels like dying, because you're releasing the emotional illusion that once made you feel alive. You have to understand that healing means laying the ghosts to rest. It means no longer visiting the memories that keep you stuck. It means no longer speaking his name like it still has power over your emotions. It's realizing that the version of him you miss doesn't exist anymore, and maybe it never truly did. What you loved was the potential, the promises, the feeling of being seen, but the person capable of fulfilling those things wasn't real. You fell in love with the idea of what could be, not what was. And that's why it's time to stop keeping his memory alive. Every time you replay the story, you're keeping yourself in emotional limbo, not here, not there, just suspended between what was and what could have been. You deserve to be free from that in-between. You deserve to live fully in the present, not as a ghost of who you were when you loved him. Start by reclaiming your energy. Take back the moments he still occupies in your mind. When you feel the urge to think about him, pause and redirect that energy towards something that feeds your soul, a hobby, a dream, a moment of gratitude. Slowly, you'll notice that the ghosts start to fade. It's not that you'll forget completely. Healing isn't erasing the past, it's learning to see it without emotion. One day, his name won't sting, his face won't bring tears, the memories won't ache, they'll just exist quietly, like pages from a book you no longer need to reread. That's when you'll know the haunting has ended. You can't move forward while you're still dancing with the ghosts of the past. The only way to stop being haunted is to stop visiting the grave. You owe it to yourself to stop reliving what's already gone. Let the ghost die and let yourself live, because you're not meant to exist in the shadows of old love stories. You're meant to step into the light of your own peace. Some people spend years trying to understand why someone hurt them, why things ended the way they did, or why love turned into disappointment. But the truth is, not everything that broke you is meant to make sense. Some people enter your life just to show you the kind of love you should never accept again. They're not your forever, they're your awakening. And when you stop searching for meaning in what hurt you, you finally start to find peace. Because healing doesn't come from understanding why someone treated you the way they did. It comes from accepting that they did and deciding that you deserve better anyway. When we hold on to pain, we tend to romanticize it. We replay the story, hoping that one day the ending will start to make sense. Maybe if we analyze every word, every look, every moment, we'll find the missing piece, the reason it all fell apart. But that search keeps you trapped in an emotional loop. You start to believe that closure comes from explanation, when in reality, closure comes from release. It's not about finding peace with them, it's about finding peace without them. The moment you stop trying to turn your pain into a lesson that justifies their behavior is the moment you set yourself free. Sometimes the only meaning behind what happened is that it was time for it to end. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't karma. It was redirection. Life removed someone who was no longer aligned with your growth. But because endings often come wrapped in heartbreak, we mistake them for loss instead of protection. You're not meant to spend your energy decoding someone's emotional immaturity. You're meant to use that energy to rebuild your strength, to rediscover your worth, and to rise wiser from it all. When you stop searching for meaning in what hurt you, you begin to focus on the present. You stop obsessing over what you can't change and start investing in what you can. You start showing up for yourself the way they never did. You begin to see that their absence doesn't leave a void, it creates space for peace to enter. The mental noise quiets down, the constant why turns into what now, and that simple shift in perspective is where healing begins. Because healing isn't about finding logic in pain, it's about finding purpose in growth. The more you try to understand the motives of someone who hurt you, the more you give them power. You let their actions define your emotions, but when you stop caring about why they did what they did, you take that power back. You reclaim your emotional control. You realize that what they did was about them. Their wounds, their fears, their lack of awareness, not about your worth. The day you stop asking, why did he do this to me, and start saying, why am I still allowing this to affect me, is the day you reclaim your peace. Peace doesn't come from knowing the answers, it comes from realizing you don't need them to move forward. Some things will always remain unfinished, unexplained, unresolved, and that's okay, because not everything broken needs fixing. Some things are meant to end so you can evolve. When you stop searching for meaning in your pain, you give yourself permission to simply be, to breathe again, to smile again, to trust that life will make sense later, even if it doesn't right now. The day you stop needing a reason for why it happened is the day you begin to live again, because peace isn't found in understanding the past, it's found in releasing it. You don't need to make sense of what broke you, you just need to stop letting it define you. And once you do, you'll realize that the silence of acceptance feels far more peaceful than the noise of overthinking ever did. There's something powerful about deciding that your healing will be louder than your pain. When you start rewriting your story, you're not pretending the past never happened, you're proving that it no longer defines you. Rewriting your story is the ultimate erasure because it shifts the focus from what broke you to what built you. It's not about deleting him from your memories, it's about evolving so far beyond who you were when you loved him that his memory simply stops fitting into the person you've become. You don't heal by erasing his existence, you heal by becoming someone he could never reach again. There comes a point when you realize that the version of you who tolerated less, who begged for love, who tried to be enough for someone who couldn't see your worth, doesn't exist anymore. You outgrow her, and when you do, the story changes. What used to make you cry now makes you grateful, not because it didn't hurt, but because it taught you what never to accept again. You rewrite your story every time you choose calm over chaos, growth over grief, and peace over people who only bring pain. That's not revenge, that's rebirth. Rewriting your story starts with how you see yourself. When you were with him, you might have seen yourself through his eyes, always trying to prove, to earn, to be enough. But when you step away, you learn to see yourself through your own truth. You realize that you were never hard to love. You were just trying to love someone incapable of depth. You begin to understand that you didn't lose him. He lost the version of you that would have done anything to keep him. And that realization changes everything. It turns your heartbreak into your power. As you start to grow, you'll notice something subtle. The memories begin to lose their sharpness. The details blur, the emotions soften. His name no longer feels heavy on your tongue. That's because you've filled your life with new experiences, new energy, and new meaning. You've built a life that doesn't have space for his ghost anymore. And that's what true erasure looks like, not forced forgetting, but natural evolution. You stop needing to delete him from your mind because he's already irrelevant in your reality. Rewriting your story also means redefining love. You stop chasing validation from others and start finding it within yourself. You learn that love doesn't mean losing yourself to keep someone else comfortable. It means being so grounded in who you are that anyone who enters your life either adds peace or leaves. You begin to attract differently, calmer energy, deeper connections, healthier love. Because your story no longer revolves around what you've lost, but around what you've found, your voice, your worth, your balance. The woman who rises from heartbreak is never the same one who fell into it. She's softer in her spirit, but stronger in her boundaries. She no longer needs to prove her value to anyone because she carries it quietly in how she moves. She no longer seeks closure from the past because she's too busy creating her future. That's what rewriting your story is, turning pain into purpose, rejection into redirection, loss into liberation. It's not an overnight transformation, but it's the most empowering one you'll ever experience. One day, you'll look back and realize that the story isn't about him anymore. He's just a faded chapter, a background detail in the book of your becoming. You'll see that your strength wasn't in surviving what happened, it was in what you built after. You'll understand that the greatest erasure isn't deleting his name. It's living a life so full, so radiant, and so peaceful that he no longer exists in the pages of who you are. Because you've rewritten the ending, and this time, it's not about him, it's about you. At some point, you have to make peace with the fact that healing isn't about forgetting him, it's about remembering yourself. It's about erasing the pieces of him that lingered in your thoughts, your habits, your emotions, until you stand there whole again, untouched by what once broke you. Erase every memory like he never lived in you isn't about pretending the love never existed. It's about reclaiming the parts of your soul that love once occupied. Because the truth is, he didn't define you, he revealed you. He showed you how deeply you could feel, how much you could give, and how strong you could become when it all fell apart. There is nothing weak about letting go. There's nothing cruel about choosing peace over pain. Erasing someone doesn't make you heartless, it makes you healed. It means you're no longer willing to carry someone who chose to walk away. It means you've decided that your life deserves to be filled with presence, not absence. The beauty of moving on isn't that you forget them, it's that you no longer need to remember. Their name stops holding weight, their face stops showing up in your dreams, and their memory fades quietly into the background of your evolution. And one day, you'll realize that the person who once felt like your entire world has become just another lesson in it. You'll stop asking why it happened and start being grateful that it did, because it pushed you toward the version of yourself who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't break for love. She simply chooses herself. That's the woman who emerges when you truly erase him, strong, peaceful, grounded, and untouchable. So let the memories go. Let his ghost dissolve. Let the past stay where it belongs, behind you. You don't need to rewrite his story. You only need to finish yours. Because the day you truly erase every trace of him from your soul is the day you return to yourself completely. And that, more than anything, is the kind of freedom no heartbreak can ever take away.